The Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has said that the first tranche of the India-US bilateral trade agreement is ready, but will come into effect only after the United States ensures that India gets a comparative advantage over competing countries, including those in the neighborhood and the ASEAN region. Let's listen into that statement.
Categorically and on several occasions expressed the confidence that what we have finalized with the US as the first tranche of the bilateral trade agreement, which was announced by our leaders on 3rd of February, will come into operation as soon as the United States is able to ensure that we get a comparative advantage over our competitors, the countries in our neighborhood, the countries in the ASEAN region and other countries with whom we compete. That was the basis of our first tranche of the BTA, and once that basis is re-established, the US BTA will be ready.
So Atul, this is a big statement coming in from Piyush Goyal, and we now know that India is waiting for a comparative advantage over others in the region before it goes ahead with implementation of the first phase of the India-US trade deal.
Well, but what is worrying is that, for several weeks now, we have seen such statements coming from both the sides. Both of the sides saying that, about 99% of the part of the deal has been cracked. It's just 1%, which is sort of, the sticking point between the two countries. And what we are seeing is that despite, trade representatives visiting each other's nations, we have seen meetings, dialogue happening. We haven't really seen any breakthrough on that particular 1%, which both the sides have been referring to, be it Piyush Goyal or be it Sergio Gore. They have been referring to that one particular 1%. Now, what we're seeing is that, despite the fact that, in February, both the countries agreed for this bilateral trade agreement framework, the larger framework was agreed upon. But what is the sticking point between the two countries is obviously from the American side. American side wants more access for the agricultural and dairy markets in India, which obviously India is quite guarded about. Now, India wants a lower tariff compared to other of its South Asian peers, because that is where the competition is for India, because they want to have say greater having a lower tariff, in fact, compared to those nations, so in order to make their exports more viable in the US. But that is something which is that is a sticking point. And what we're seeing is that recently under Section 301, we saw US also imposing additional 10% tariffs on India and some other countries as well. Though the tariff is lower compared to other countries, because they have seen about 12.5% tariff. India obviously getting 10% tariff because of the fact that in the very because of the fact that India's trade, the drug controller imposed about some sort of tariffs on goods that were made of by forced labor. So that sort of control the damage. But what we're seeing is that the final breakthrough on that 1% is still missing.
All right, thank you so much, Atul, for all those updates on those various stories. We are now shifting our focus. Well, India's ancient civilization